Today I want to talk about 9 ways how processed foods are designed to be irresistible. A lot of times processed food is what leads us to that excess calorie intake, leading to the weight gain, leading to those cravings. If you think most of your cravings, are they processed foods or healthy foods? The thing is, these processed foods, when we eat them, something magical happens in the brain. Our brain lights up like a Christmas tree, which means we want more, we eat more, and we finish that whole bloody thing until it's all gone. And then guess what? We feel guilty. But guess what we keep doing? The same thing again and again and again. And you know what? It's designed for you to keep doing that. So in this video, I want to actually break down how these processed foods are designed that way, because the better you understand it, the better equipped you are to understand, to make better choices yourself. The first one is the bliss point of food. But what the bliss point means, it's taking sugar and fat or salt and fat. The moment we combine those two things, it creates the bliss point of food. It's that bliss point that creates that allure of making sure after that first bite we can't stop. We just want more of it. It's fat and salt or fat and sugar combined that creates that bliss of, this food is amazing, I want more. Take that block of Cadbury chocolate, put it in your mouth. Close the Cadbury slab, put it away. No, it doesn't happen. You finish the whole slab. Or, for others with a more salty tooth, take a Simba chip, eat the chip, close the bag, put it away. No, you finish the whole bag. Salt and fat, sugar and fat creates the bliss point of food. It's designed that way. The second one is sugar in the brain. Sugar plays a pivotal role in the alluring nature of highly processed foods. It is in almost all highly processed foods. Even salty processed foods will still have some sugar in it. And why is that? When we consume sugar, we still get a little bit of a dopamine hit, because dopamine is a neurotransmitter. It encourages us to do more of that activity. Anything that gives us a dopamine spike creates an encouragement to keep doing that activity. And sugar is a great lever to activate that response in the brain to make us do that same thing again. That response, in some extent, is almost what you see also in drug usage and people that uses drugs. It's for the same pathway for that massive dopamine hit. Yes, just in a much higher scale, but sugar plays on the same system. That's why a lot of times cutting out sugar is so hard, because once we start with that little thing, we'll finish the whole thing, we feel guilty afterwards, and we keep repeating that because it plays on that dopamine pathway. And the thing is, the brain remembers the foods that created that little spike, which leads us to crave those exact things because that's what the brain has learned to do. The third one is fat, the mouthfeel of food. Fat contributes to the mouthfeel. And what I mean mouthfeel, think of creamy, thick, salty, crispiness, or even flaky. Think of a pie, that little flaky crust or the perfect baked croissant. Without fat, we can't get that creamy texture, the flaky texture, or the crispy texture. But also in the mouth and in the intestines, we've got neuropod cells that are constantly looking for fat molecules. And once they get triggered, they send a signal to the brain to release these neurotransmitters that makes us crave these foods more. Because fat is very high in energy. For thousands of years, we never had enough energy. So the moment we can light up these receptors, it tells the brain keep having more of it because it's high in energy, because we never knew when our next meal is going to be there. So by activating these neuropod cells, it's easy for us to keep eating more of it because the brain's telling you, have more. And it makes the food more pleasurable, and it also creates the urge to not stop eating, to eat more. Think about it. If I give you 3 boiled potatoes, boring, bland, after 1.5, you're going to tell me, stop, I've had enough. Let's take some McDonald's shoestring fries. I will finish that whole thing and I will want more. Both are potatoes, but fat, that mouthfeel, that crispiness of that shoestring fry, plus the addition of salt to encourage the bliss point. Now I just added 2 of those things and I can't stop. And I'm not saying don't, but be vigilant of these foods. The fourth one is salt and flavor enhancers. Salt is actually a flavor enhancer. And a lot of times when we put salt on food, what does it do to the food? It makes the food taste better. If I give you food boiled rice without salt, oats without salt, if I cook pasta without salt, if I give you boiled potatoes without salt, if I give you a piece of meat without salt, you get to palate fatigue a lot quicker, which means your body's going to tell you, you know what, I had enough, please stop, that's enough. If I add salt to it, it makes it more enjoyable. We taste the flavors more. That salt also releases opioids in the brain, which makes the food get perceived as so much more delicious, wholesome, enjoyable, which leads us to eat more of it. To test this out, I'm going to give you an experiment. Boil 2 large boiled potatoes. Yes, I always use potatoes for an example because it's a simple thing and we can all relate to it. And have 200 grams of boiled potatoes without any seasoning. It's hard to finish it. The next day, do the same, but now add salt to it. And you'll be surprised how much easier you finished both potatoes with salt versus both potatoes with no salt. The 5th one is the role of texture. Texture of food also plays a massive role. Think of crispy, creamy, flaky, as I said, and fat. But now, what if we have 2 contrasting textures? What does that do? I think that this is where we also feel the food in our mouth. And when I say contrasting textures, think of an Oreo cookie. The outside of that Oreo cookie is crispy, but what about the inside? It's soft and creamy. That perfect combination of soft and crispy creates that ultimate mouth feel. And that, in return, sends that signal to the brain, keep eating. Now, think about all the foods you like. That crispiness is a lot of times combined with the softness. The perfect French fry, crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. The perfect toasted sandwich, crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. A lot of times when you start combining different textures, it's also designed to make us overeat. The 6th one, the impact of aromas, the smell of food. A lot of foods, processed foods especially, they add compounds to make that food smell a specific reason. And why is that? Those smells trigger emotional responses and memories, taking us back to times when we enjoyed those food, the emotions we had with that food, and the memories combined with them. Think back on your own past. A lot of the memories you have around food, you can smell a certain food, and it takes you back to exactly that time, the emotion, the place, the feelings. And if we can activate those smell receptors before you actually eat it, you already have a preconception of the emotion you're going to get. You're thinking about that good emotion, that feeling you had, and now that feeling gets associated with the food, and we enjoy it, and we keep eating it. We also eat with our nose. The smell of food plays a vital role here, and it's one a lot of food processing companies utilize to make the food more addictive. The 7th one is the psychology of color. We also eat with our eyes. The color of the food will also create the preconception of how we perceive that food is going to taste, how yummy it's going to be, how happy it's going to make us feel. Think about a strawberry, that red color. Every time you've bought strawberries and there was 1 or 2 that wasn't that beautiful red, you already made up your mind it's not going to be as yummy. Take a tomato, that red, beautiful, shiny tomato. You already know what it's going to taste like. If one is a bit weird red and not the perfect red, you already made the decision it's not going to taste that way. Processed foods, they do the same. They're colorful, they're vibrant. A lot of times they'll add color to it to create that sense of look how beautiful, colorful it is. So it's going to taste awesome. And guess what? That gives you that preconception of, you know what, this is yummy. So it's already going to lead you to overeating. Combine that now with all the other ones. You see how these things are starting to layer up on why it's so hard to stop these foods. The 8th one is the vanishing calorie density. And this is kind of a new one, but it's a very devilish little one actually. Some foods are so highly processed, so easily digestible, that it actually starts digesting in our mouth. And why is that a problem? This tricks the brain into thinking it's actually consuming fewer calories because the food is actually digesting in the mouth, it's melting in the mouth, so it's not as much food going down and we're not eating, which leads us to, you know what, I can have more of that. Think of that saying, it's melt in your mouth good. Now you know what it actually truly means. And that then reduces the body's tendency to feel full and increases the tendency of, guess what? Eat more. And the 9th one, the reward cycle. This is where all 8 these things come together now to create the reward cycle. The brain remembers the joy, the dopamine, the endorphins, all these neurotransmitters, the emotions, the feelings we get around food. It remembers that. And those memories of these foods, every time we're a bit low, we're not happy, we're low in energy, guess what? Ding, 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 ding. Well, the brain knows we did this last time to feel like this. Go get that food. Cravings. And it creates that experience of I want that experience again and again. Every time I'm low, let's do it again. That is the reward cycle. And it works with everything. Our brain's always looking for what we did, so do that again. And these 8 things, how we design food, plays a massive role in that reward cycle. Take your own life, for instance. All your cravings, the indulgence, the binge eating, the overeating. What did you overeat on? What did you binge on? And what did you crave? Was it the unprocessed foods? No. It was always foods that have had a combination of all 8 these different methods in order for them to be created. So you fall prey. Understanding the science of how processed food is made and what it does to the brain and why we overeat on it. It's not there so we stop eating these highly processed foods. I still eat them. I like my milk tart, my brownies, my braaibroodjies. I'm a sucker for a good bowl of Doritos with some cheese, some nachos. I'm not saying stop. But the better we understand how these foods are designed, the more empowering we can make our own choices to not do it on a regular basis. 80-20, 80% of the time focus on nourishing the body, whole, unprocessed foods. And you know what that other 20% can be? Enjoy those foods, but still be vigilant, put up boundaries so you don't make it a habit, and start using other coping mechanisms when we are low, we feel burnt out, we are feeling anxious, we're not in a good emotional state. These foods don't fix that problem, they worsen them. But our brain has associated them with feeling good, getting that dopamine, that endorphins, that euphoria from the food. In the long run, that's never going to help us become healthier. So start paying attention to these 9 ways food is designed to make you overeat. It's about building the awareness and start becoming aware of how these foods are all around us. You know what? Just being aware is already a massive step in the right direction. And I'm going to ask you a favor today. I would really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up or a subscribe. That way I know I gave you something today to think about, that you've learned. And you know what? That's all I ask. Because if I know I'm helping one person even, it entices me to make more of these videos. For me, it's about sharing this with you all. Make you more aware of how food can enrich our life, but also break free of this whole diet culture and falling prey to all these kinds of foods that are designed to keep us enslaved to them. So I would really appreciate that thumbs up or a subscribe button, and share this with anybody you think will appreciate it or can learn from it. And as always, remember, be better today than you were yesterday.